Look, I have been teaching combat techniques at the Galactic Military Academy for 300 cycles now. 300 cycles. I have trained warriors from 17 different species, watched cadets evolve from clumsy hatchlings into deadly fighters, and witnessed more duels than there are stars in the Andromeda sector. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day a human showed up at my advanced weapons class. His name was Marcus Webb. Yes, I know, even their names sound aggressive. Short, blunt, like a punch to the thorax. He walked into my training hall on Station Kepler with this ridiculous swagger, carrying what looked like an antique metal stick in a leather sheath. The other students, a mix of Vorlaxians with their forearms and Cathari with their crystalline exoskeletons, actually stepped back when he entered. Smart of them, really, though they did not know it yet. I am Instructor Ventakar, by the way. My species, the Gelian, pride ourselves on our tactical superiority. We have been the premier weapons masters in this galaxy for millennia. Our reflexes are faster than most species can even perceive. Our strategic minds can calculate 7,000 possible combat outcomes in the span of a single breath. We do not lose. So when this human dropped his equipment bag on my pristine training floor with a loud thump, I will admit, my secondary heart skipped exactly one beat. You must be the new transfer, I said, letting my mandibles click in what most species recognize as dismissive amusement. Marcus Webb, yes. From Earth. That would be me, sir, he grinned. Actually grinned. Like he was meeting a friend at a social gathering, instead of standing before someone who could disassemble him in 43 different ways. Heard you run the toughest combat program in the sector. Flattery will earn you nothing here except perhaps a quicker defeat. I gestured with 3 of my 6 limbs toward the equipment racks. Standard plasma rifles are on the left, graviton spears on the right, molecular disruptors in the center. Choose your weapon for today's assessment. He patted the sheath at his hip. Actually, I brought my own. Oh, this was going to be entertaining. You brought your own weapon. I repeated each word slowly, letting my bioluminescent crest flare bright orange, which in my species signals impending mockery, to the most advanced military academy in known space, where we train with weapons that can punch holes through starship hulls. Yep, he unsheathed the thing, and I swear to the 12 moons of Gel it was just metal, forged metal, sharpened metal, no power cell, no energy matrix, no quantum edge, just metal. A sword. He brought a sword. The Voraxian cadet, Torvan, made a sound that could generously be described as a suppressed laugh. Even Kusara, the usually stoic Cathari, tilted her head in what I recognized as confused fascination. That is adorable, I said, moving closer to examine this archaeological curiosity. Did you steal it from a museum? Is this some kind of Earth humor I am too evolved to understand? Marcus actually looked offended. This blade has been in my family for 200 years. My great-great-grandfather carried it in the Third Corporate War. My grandmother used it to defend Perth settlement from raiders, and I personally used it to win the Sol System Championship 3 years running. The Sol System Championship, I repeated, my mandibles now clicking, in full amusement mode. How impressive. You defeated other humans with primitive metal implements. Truly, the galaxy trembles. Want to test it? He asked, and there was something in his eyes. Something that made my combat instincts suddenly wake up and pay attention. Oh, I would absolutely love to test it. I gestured to the combat circle, a raised platform in the center of the hall where energy barriers prevent lethal strikes, but still allow for educational pain. However, I have a better idea. Since you are so confident in your antique, let us make this interesting. I walked to my personal equipment locker and pulled out my pride and joy, a Zelian war shield. Not the training versions the cadets use, but my actual combat shield, forged from compressed neutronium composite, reinforced with graviton field generators, and inscribed with the names of every master I defeated to earn my instructor rank. 17 names, each one carved with molecular precision using military-grade lasers. The shield was 2 feet in diameter, smooth as frozen nitrogen, and absolutely indestructible by any conventional means. I had taken direct hits from plasma cannons during the border wars. Not a scratch. Not a single microscopic imperfection. Here is your test, human. I held up the shield, letting it catch the overhead lights and gleam. If your primitive metal stick can leave even the tiniest mark on this shield, I will personally apologize to you in front of the entire academy. I will admit that I, Ventukar, master of combat forms, was wrong about human weapons. The other students had now gathered around, sensing entertainment. Nothing brings cadets together like watching an instructor humiliate someone. Marcus examined the shield, running his fingers across its surface. And if I succeed, you will not succeed. But hypothetically, if you did, you would earn my respect, and perhaps I would actually teach you something instead of simply failing you out of my program. I made a show of placing the shield on a standing mount in the center of the combat circle. You get 3 attempts. Use any technique you wish. Strike with all your strength. Show me what human desperation looks like when facing superior technology. He smiled. Not a nervous smile, not even an excited smile. It was the smile of someone who knows a punchline that nobody else has figured out yet. 3 attempts, he confirmed, moving into the combat circle and taking a stance I did not recognize. His sword was held in a 2-handed grip, angled down and to the side. His weight was distributed oddly, too far forward for proper Zellian combat theory. Begin whenever you are ready to embarrass yourself, I announced, and the other students actually laughed. Even Torvin, who usually maintains proper military decorum. Marcus took a breath. Just one, deep and slow, like he was meditating instead of preparing to fail spectacularly. Then he moved. I have seen fast before. I have seen cadet warriors accelerate to speeds that create sonic booms in atmosphere. I have seen Vorlaxian berserkers become blurs of motion. But this was different. This was not about speed. This was about precision. The sword came up in an arc that defied my combat prediction algorithms. My mind, trained to calculate trajectories, could not pass the movement. It was too simple, too direct. There was no feint, no setup, no wasted motion. Just a single, perfect cut. The sound of metal striking neutronium composite rang through the hall like a bell. A high, clear note that echoed off the walls and seemed to last for 3 full seconds. Marcus stepped back, lowering his sword. I stared at my shield, the shield that had survived actual warfare, the shield that had deflected energy weapons capable of vaporizing small mountains. There was a line, a single hair-thin line carved into the surface, about 3 inches long, perfectly straight, exactly as deep as a molecular inscriber would create. That is impossible, I said, moving closer. My claws touched the mark. It was real, permanent, actual damage to my shield. That was attempt 1, Marcus said calmly, returning to his stance. Would you like me to continue, sir? The training hall had gone completely silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to have stopped humming. 17 pairs of eyes, in various shapes and colors, all fixed on that impossible line. My pride said to stop this immediately. To confiscate his weapon, claim equipment malfunction, anything to preserve my reputation. My curiosity, damn it all, said something else entirely. Continue, I heard myself say. Marcus nodded, took another breath, and struck again. This time I was watching, specifically for the technique. My enhanced Cillian eyes tracked every microsecond of movement. The angle of his shoulders, the rotation of his hips, the way his grip shifted at the exact moment of impact. The sword moved through the air like it was cutting reality itself, and when it struck the shield, another line, perpendicular to the first. Same depth, same precision. How? I demanded, abandoning all pretense of instructor dignity. The molecular bonds in that shield are tighter than natural diamond. The graviton field should be dispersing kinetic energy across the entire surface. You should not be able to. 3rd attempt, he interrupted, and now he was definitely smiling. I wanted to say no. I wanted to end this demonstration before it completely destroyed everything I thought I knew about weapons technology. But every student in the hall was watching, waiting, and I am many things, but I am not a coward. Yes, I said quietly. Third attempt. This time Marcus closed his eyes, just for a moment. When he opened them again, they had changed, focused in a way that made me realize something terrifying. He had been holding back. The sword came down, not faster than before, not harder than before, but somehow more intent, more purpose, more of whatever quality makes a weapon into something beyond mere technology. The third line completed a triangle, 3 perfect cuts, 3 impossible marks on an indestructible surface. And in the center of that triangle, carved with such precision that it could have been laser-etched, his name, Marcus Webb. In letters so small I needed to activate my optical magnification to read them clearly. He had carved his name into my shield, with a piece of sharpened metal that should not have been able to scratch it, in 3 strikes, each one placed with such absolute accuracy that together they formed readable text. Your move, Instructor, Marcus said, sheathing his sword. Do I get that apology, or do we keep pretending that newer always means better? I looked at my shield, then at him, then at the 17 students who were all trying very hard not to make any sounds that might be interpreted as laughter at their instructor's expense. And I started to laugh first, deep, clicking Gellian laughter that comes from all 3 of my lung chambers at once, because what else could I do? In 300 cycles of teaching, I had finally encountered something that made me feel like a cadet again. Confused, amazed, and desperately wanting to learn more. Cadet Webb, I said formally, my crest now glowing a respectful blue. It appears I have severely underestimated both you and your species. I would be honored if you would demonstrate your technique in detail. After I make the apology I clearly owe. He actually looked surprised at that, like he expected me to make excuses or deny what just happened. Humans. They really do not understand how the galaxy works yet. When someone shows you something impossible, you do not fight it. You study it. You learn from it. You adapt. That is how species survive. And I had a very strong feeling that understanding humans was going to become essential for survival very, very soon. So there I stood, 300 cycles of military superiority crumbling around me like a poorly constructed asteroid base, staring at a human who had just violated every known law of material science with what amounted to a sharpened kitchen utensil. The apology needed to happen. Protocol demanded it. More importantly, my own honor demanded it. But first, I had questions. So many questions that my tertiary brain was literally heating up from processing them all simultaneously. Before I make my very public apology, I said, gesturing for the other students to maintain their positions around the combat circle, I need to understand what I just witnessed. That sword of yours. Explain. Marcus pulled the blade partially from its sheath again, letting the metal catch the light. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with the composition. My sensors are reading simple carbon steel with trace elements of chromium and molybdenum. Nothing exotic. Nothing that should be capable of penetrating neutronium composite. That is accurate, he confirmed. It is exactly what your sensors say it is. High carbon steel folded approximately 2,000 times during forging. My family has been making blades like this for generations. Torvin, the Vorlaxian, could not contain himself anymore. But that makes no sense. Folding metal does not increase its fundamental molecular strength beyond the base material properties. It just redistributes impurities and creates layered structure for flexibility. It should not cut through advanced composite materials? Marcus finished. You are absolutely right. It should not, except you are all thinking about this wrong. I felt my combat analysis centers trying to process that statement and failing spectacularly. Wrong? Explain how physics can be understood incorrectly. Because you are focused on the weapon. He tapped the sword's edge. When you should be focused on the wielder. Oh no. I suddenly realized where this was going, and it made me want to molt my outer carapace in embarrassment. The technique, I said slowly. This whole time I have been analyzing the wrong variable. Now you are getting it, sir. Marcus moved back into his stance, sword raised but not threatening. May I demonstrate with commentary this time? Please do. And all of you, I addressed the other students, pay attention. What you are about to learn will probably not appear in any of your tactical databases for another 50 cycles. Marcus began moving through the motion again, but this time in slow increments. Humans have been fighting with edged weapons for approximately 4,000 years. We did not have graviton fields or molecular disruptors. We had metal and physics and desperation, so we learned. He shifted his weight forward, showing how his back foot provided anchoring force. First principle, energy transfer. Every joule of force I can generate from my legs, my core, my shoulders, all of it channels through my arms into a single point of contact. No wasted motion, no energy bleeding off into unnecessary movements. Kasara, the Cathari student, raised one crystalline appendage. But Instructor Ven Takar can calculate optimal force distribution automatically. His species evolved for combat efficiency. Calculated efficiency, Marcus corrected, versus practiced efficiency. Your instructor thinks about the optimal path. I do not think at all. My body knows because I have repeated this exact motion 10,000 times, 20,000, enough times that it becomes something other than technique. He continued the demonstration, the sword now moving through the air with that same impossible grace. Second principle, edge alignment. Look at the angle, exactly 90 degrees to the target surface at point of impact. Even a microscopic deviation would cause the energy to disperse laterally, but I do not aim for 90 degrees. I just cut, and my muscle memory ensures the angle, because anything else feels wrong. Muscle memory, I repeated. Your biological tissue retains motion patterns without conscious thought. Exactly. Which brings me to the third principle, and this is the one that matters most. He paused with the sword raised above his head, perfectly balanced. Intent. Several students made confused sounds. Intent was not a physical force. Intent was psychology, motivation, not something that affected material outcomes. I know what you are thinking, Marcus said, and his smile had returned. Intent is not real, it is superstition. Except ask yourselves this. Have any of you ever faced an opponent who terrified you? Not because they were stronger or faster, but because you could feel their certainty, their absolute conviction that they would win? Uncomfortable silence. Because yes, every warrior in that hall had faced someone like that at least once. Humans call it fighting spirit. Some of our old martial arts masters called it focus. But it all means the same thing. When I strike, I am not hoping to cut. I am not trying to cut. I am cutting. Past tense. Done. Finish. The outcome is decided before the sword even moves because I have already seen it happen in my mind. He brought the sword down in one final, complete motion. Not hitting anything this time. Just demonstrating the full technique in real speed. It was beautiful, terrifying, and completely illogical. That is placebo effect, Torvald protested weakly. Psychological self-reinforcement does not alter physical constants. Does it not? Marcus asked. Then explain how I just carved my name into an indestructible shield. I cannot, I admitted, and saying those words out loud felt like shedding old skin. Painful but necessary, which means my understanding of combat is incomplete. 300 cycles of teaching, and I have been missing something fundamental about the nature of warfare. Not missing, Marcus said generously, just approaching from a different angle. Your people developed technology to enhance combat capability. My people developed ourselves because we had no other choice. Neither approach is wrong. They are just different paths to the same destination. Kasara stepped forward, her crystalline structure refracting the overhead lights into rainbow patterns. Could you teach this technique? Would it work for non-human species? Honestly, I do not know. Marcus looked at me. That is actually why I requested transfer to this academy. Earth Military Command wants to see if human combat techniques can be integrated with other species' natural abilities, create something new, something better than either approach alone. Oh, this was much bigger than one cadet with an antique sword. This was first contact military philosophy. This was the beginning of humans integrating into galactic combat doctrine, and I was standing at the center of it. Instructor Vin-Takar, Marcus said formally. I believe you owed me an apology, right? The apology, in front of 17 students who would absolutely spread this story across the entire station within the hour. My reputation was about to take a significant hit, but perhaps that was acceptable. Perhaps that was even necessary. I drew myself up to full height, all 6 limbs positioned in the Gelian gesture of sincere respect. Cadet Marcus Webb of Earth, I Instructor Vin-Takar, Master of Combat Forms and Weapons Theory, formally apologize for dismissing your weapon and your capabilities. I allowed my assumptions about technological superiority to blind me to other possibilities. I was wrong. You have demonstrated skill that I did not believe possible, and I ask your forgiveness for my arrogance. The hall remained silent. This was not something students witnessed often. Probably never, if I was being honest with myself. Marcus bowed, an earth gesture, head lowering to show respect. Apology accepted, sir, and for what it is worth, your shield is still the most impressive piece of defensive equipment I have ever encountered. The fact that I could mark it at all is a testament to your craftsmanship in choosing it. Clever. He was giving me an honorable exit from this embarrassment while still maintaining his victory. Humans understood politics better than their newcomer status suggested. Well then, I said, turning to address all the students. It appears we have much to learn from each other. Cadet Webb, starting tomorrow you will begin teaching supplemental classes in human combat techniques. Anyone interested in learning is welcome to attend. Cadet Torvin, you will assist him in developing training protocols that account for different species' physiological variations. Torvin looked thrilled and terrified simultaneously, which was fair. Learning entirely new combat doctrine was not exactly a minor assignment. Cadet Kasara, you will document everything for the Academy archives. I suspect this will become required study material within the next few cycles. She clicked her mandibles in acknowledgement, already pulling out recording equipment. The rest of you dismissed. Go spread this story. Tell everyone what you witnessed. But make sure you tell it accurately. The human did not use magic or trick technology. He used skill, discipline, and 4,000 years of species experience. That is all. That is enough. The students filed out, already talking excitedly among themselves. I could hear Torvin explaining to someone that he had known something special was going to happen the moment Marcus walked in. Revisionist history at its finest. Only Marcus remained, standing beside my mounted shield with its new decorations. 3 lines and a name. Permanent reminders of the day I learned humility. Thank you, he said quietly. That could have gone much worse for me. How so? You could have confiscated my sword, claimed it was a safety hazard, had me removed from the program. Instead you admitted error, and turned this into a teaching moment. That takes more strength than any combat technique. I examined my shield again, running my claws over the carved name. Can I ask you something personal, Cadet Webb? Of course, sir. That 3rd strike. The one where you carved your name. You closed your eyes before you began. Why? He was quiet for a long moment, and I thought perhaps I had overstepped some human boundary. But then he spoke, and his voice carried weight I had not heard before. My grandmother taught me that technique. She said the hardest cuts are the ones where you cannot see the target, because you have to trust yourself completely. No visual reference. No last-second adjustments. Just perfect faith that your body knows what to do. Your grandmother sounds like she was a remarkable warrior. She was. Died defending Perth settlement from raiders. Like I mentioned, took down 6 of them before they finally overwhelmed her. She was 73 years old. He smiled, but it was sad around the edges. She always said that humans do not have the strongest bodies or the fastest reflexes or the most advanced technology. But we have something that cannot be measured or quantified. Intent, I said. Stubborn, unreasonable, absolutely certain intent. We decide something is going to happen, and then we make reality adjust to match. It probably should not work, It definitely should not work against species that evolved for combat over millions of years. But somehow it does. I thought about that. About a 73-year-old human facing down 6 armed raiders. About Marcus carving his name into my shield. About 4,000 years of humans fighting with metal and determination against a universe that should have crushed them. You know what terrifies me, Cadet Webb? What is that, sir? You have only been part of the galactic community for 12 cycles. 12. You are still learning our technology, our tactics, our weapons, and you are already doing things we cannot explain. I gestured at the shield. What will you be capable of in 100 cycles? 1,000? When you combine that human stubbornness with advanced technology, he grinned. I guess you will have to stick around and find out, sir. I suppose I will. I picked up my shield, feeling the weight of it differently now. It was still my pride, still my achievement. But now it was also proof that pride needed tempering with reality. Come, help me secure this in my office. I think it has earned retirement from training demonstrations. As we walked through the academy corridors, other students stopped to stare. Word had already spread. The human who marked the indestructible shield. The instructor who admitted error. By dinner hour this would be the most discussed event on the entire station. Sir? Marcus asked as we entered my office. Can I ask you something now? Fair exchange. Ask. That shield. The 17 names carved on it. Those are all the masters you defeated for your rank. Correct. Each one a combat expert from different species, each one considered unbeatable in their discipline. So now there are 18 marks on your shield. Does that mean that you defeated me? No. You proved a point. You demonstrated capability I did not anticipate. But defeat requires actual combat, and we have not fought. I placed the shield on its display stand, positioning it where the morning light would catch the new inscriptions. However, if you are suggesting what I think you are suggesting, a proper duel. When I have finished learning everything this academy can teach me, to see if human technique can match Jillian mastery, the audacity, the absolute confidence. 300 cycles ago, I would have been insulted by such presumption. Now I was excited. Agreed. One condition though. Name it. You teach me that grandmother technique first, the one with closed eyes. Because if I am going to face a human warrior in formal combat, I want to understand everything you can do. Marcus extended his hand. Another earth gesture. I gripped it with my primary manipulator, feeling the strange softness of mammalian flesh against my exoskeleton. Deal, instructor. But I should warn you. My grandmother always said that once you learn to fight like a human, you can never go back to fighting like anything else. Good, I replied. Because I am rather tired of being predictable. Outside my office window, Station Kepler rotated slowly, carrying its cargo of students and warriors, and the future of galactic military doctrine. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. A planet full of humans with their swords and their stubbornness, and their 4,000 years of refusing to accept what should be impossible. The galaxy was about to change, and I had front row seats to watch it happen. All because one cadet had the audacity to bring a sword to a plasma fight, and win.